to the cloud. Okay. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the 7th Annual Alexander Valley Film Festival. My name is Catherine Hecht, and I am the Executive Director of the Alexander Valley Film Society. With me in the studio today, I like to call it a studio because that makes it sound fancy, but with me in the studio today is my dear longtime friend, Lin Que, joining us from New York. We're going to be talking about her film, Nowhere. And before we get started, we're going to read our land acknowledgement here and have a couple of housekeeping items. So the Alexander Valley Film Society recognizes that we here in Sonoma County are on unceded lands of the Coast Miwok, Pomo, and Wapo. We respectfully acknowledge the Indigenous people who have lived here for thousands of years and who continue to contribute in meaningful ways to their communities and our society as a whole. Our shared history includes the genocide, forced removal, and ethnic cleansing of Indigenous people. AVFS is committed to centering Indigenous voices and stories to recognize the past and celebrate the resiliency of Native people and their culture. Our deepest thanks go to Nikki Myers-Lim and the California Indian Museum and Cultural Center, as well as Clint McKay from the Pepperwood Preserve for their assistance with this acknowledgement. You can learn more about our Diversity, Equity, Belonging, and Access Committee, as well as our equity framework on our website, avfilmsociety.org/equity. If you need tech assistance during the festival, head to our website, avfilmsociety.org/FAQ. We have live chat support from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I'm going to also enable our live auto captioning, which is at the bottom of your screen. You can always go to the bottom of your screen and toggle the CC to see those captions. And this is a recorded interview, so we won't have a Q&A only from me because I got to make that call. And now we get to talk to Lin, who went and warmed up her tea. I love Wonderful. It. Lin, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. And you know how happy I am to see you. So
likewise. Admittedly, I've been, since I left New York, which was 8 years ago, I've been keeping up with Lin loosely on Facebook and trying to keep tabs on what she has had going on artistically. And so Lin, Nowhere, just to remind our audience, Nowhere is a part of Our Right to Gaze, which is a collection of 6 short films from Black filmmakers.
Yes.
And we're calling it theatrical, even though it was probably mostly virtual, but it had a theatrical release back in February, correct?
You know what? It's because of COVID, things have been there's been such blurry lines. I know how it was supposed to come through and how things work. So I think I would not be surprised if there were actual theaters that were doing it, but I know that at some point some of the stuff was virtual as well. So, you know, this stuff has been transpiring since the beginning. It's actually going on prior to COVID. So everything kind of changed. So sorry for not a definite answer, but I'm sure it might have been a hybrid, if anything.
Yeah. So my puppy has decided to wake up.
Okay.
And
Your
is now.
Puppy?
Yes.
I thought she was a cat person.
Girl, I've got 2 dogs now.
You turn to the other side. You turn to the other side. Do you have cats as well? Do you have cats
yes.
as well? Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm going to take off my background. Hang on.
Ah,
this is my, come here, bud. Come here.
Oh my goodness.
There he goes. Okay, now I'm going to put my background back up because my office is such a tragedy.
How cute. Wait a minute. What's his name?
His name is Scully. He's named after Vin Scully of the Dodgers.
Okay.
He's the longtime Dodgers announcer.
Scully, I like the name.
Yeah, he's a good boy, and we have a 7-year-old mutt rescue. Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, I digress. I do remember that. Do you still have pugs?
I don't have any more pugs, but I do have. My wife has a Yorkie, so Tara is also my child. I take good care of her. I take good care of her. She's a little Yorkie, and she has such a personality. It's so funny,
I
but
love it.
she's amazing.
Okay, well, back to film, back to film.
Yes.
But this is the nice thing about COVID, I will say, is being able to connect with people a little bit more easily, especially
Yeah.
the
True.
filmmakers whose
Yeah.
stories we're sharing. And it's also a little more casual. So
Right. 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 Right.
I am wearing pants, but
I am too.
oh, good. Um, okay, so Nowhere is a part of this collection, and we're going to get into the meat of the film a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, the the film itself. Can you talk, the films are packaged and being distributed by a company called Full Spectrum Pictures.
Right. Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that process worked and your
Sure.
experience with them, because they're
Sure.
terrific.
Sure. So a friend of mine from NYU reached out to me. She had, I guess she was approached by I don't know if it was Brian or somebody from Luminal Theater. Um, and she actually was my assistant director on the film, Santanish. And she told them about Nowhere. They were looking for certain types of films. So they wanted to make sure, yeah, it was Black identity, but it's also LGBTQ focus as well. And they reached out to me and said, hey, we heard about Nowhere. We'd love to see it, to see if it's a right fit for this project that we're working on. And I was excited because it was the type of thing that it was going to be a part of a kind of a showcase
Mm-hmm.
of similar, when I say similar, other Black filmmakers. And I was interested in seeing the type of, because I like doing things kind of unconventionally too. And Nowhere happened to be my third year film. So I was kind of sitting on it. I literally shot that in about a day and a half. So
Oh,
I was sitting because it was a collab class. So, in third year, you have a choice whether or not you want to do a film. Your second year, it's about you're doing your second year film. That's our huge project. We have the whole year for that. So what happens in NYU grad is that you start off writing it. So you start off with development. They make it a point to kind of assimilate the actual structure of an actual film, although it is an actual film, but just how things are done, with development, the writing process, getting into production, principal photography, casting behind that and everything, then the marketing and the post-production and, festivals, they just go across the board. So the whole second year is based on this. So third year, people are like, ugh. And I'm just like, no, I got to make another film. I have to make another film, So I tried out to be in the third year collab class. And what's so special about this class is that you're collaborating with NYU grad cinematographers, NYU grad editors, NYU grad acting, NYU grad production design, and NYU grad costume design. So for the first time, you're in the same building all the time with Tish. Tish is the building, but now you're collaborating with all these different floors. Now you're getting to meet people, and NYU grad acting is just phenomenal. And so are the other departments. So I really wanted to take this opportunity to do it. But the only thing is there are limitations. So you have only about a day and a half before you have to pass on equipment to the next person in which you're crewing on their stuff. But it was a lot of fun. Sorry, I digress. So what happened was Santanish, who was my assistant director, she introduced me to them. They end up really feeling the film and adding it. And it's been amazing to kind of be involved in a project that has other filmmakers who are also on the same kind of path as you. I'm a firm believer that artists need to be around other artists, because it's just it's a hard, we're in a business of no's. So it's like so important to be around other artists, and some of them are getting the yeses when you're getting the no's, and then vice versa, and you're able to be supportive.
Yeah, that's a really strong statement, and something that with this particular version of our festival, we've collaborated with Film Fest Petaluma, which is a town 45, 50 minutes away from where we are now. It might as well be in a different state, the way California is set up. It's so rural where I live. And they have this fantastic short film festival that goes on, and all of these filmmakers coming in from all over the world for the Q&As this year that we're collaborating and hosting on our side. It's just incredible because they are reflecting that exact thing, being able to connect with one another. Some are moving, advanced, the yes and the no's. I just love that you said that. And I also just want to read some of the liner notes that the curator, Curtis Caesar John from the Luminal Theater, who put together Our Right to Gaze. He says, he calls it the paradox of expectation. And it's the idea that wanting to rid yourself of expectations is a paradox. Literally the expectation of no expectation. In these 6 films from emerging Black filmmakers, what the protagonists experience as the world they woke up to is not the one from which they're now appearing. And so that kind of brings me to the film itself. And I wanted to talk to you about this. So you made this in a day and a half, or you shot it in a day and a half?
Shot it in a day and a half, yes.
And one of the things from the outset that really struck me is there was no apology. You take us right into some pretty dark moments with our protagonist.
Yes.
In the middle of her probably experiencing trauma, but mid trauma. I mean, so she's in the flow of this life, and then very quickly is introduced to, the change agent through this, what most people would categorize as a dark world, a darker part of our world. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sorry about that. I will.
That's
take
okay.
that off.
Like putting your character through those paces.
Sorry about that. Somebody was calling. I think as a filmmaker, what I love doing is kind of emulating life in a way that we never get to see around the corner. We don't, and when we as writers, we know everything. We know what's in the world. We know what's going to happen. We know what's around the corner. We know what's the past. We have a backstory that none of the viewers know about, with our characters and with things that have occurred. So, we have expectations because we can't look around the corner. We have these expectations of what, I guess it helps us feel safe or what have you. And I love turning that on its tail. Like I just love doing that because I feel like that's what life does for us. So for me, I wrote this during the time of Harvey Weinstein coming out, of just the abuse and the degradation for these women that I've seen on the camera, women that I've looked up to as far as their acting abilities, their skills, the way they portray themselves, and to know that this was going on during that time. And it was important. What intrigued me about that is the power dynamics in relationships and traditional roles of men and women and gender. And that intrigued me so much that I wanted to create a character who was going through an abusive relationship, similar, but not exactly like the Harvey Weinstein situation. And her kind of walking through a place where control is accepted, where you sign up for it. Where you have agency, where she doesn't have agency, so that she can look at herself through a different mirror. She can look at herself through a different character and see herself mirrored, in other words. And, and that's why I also wanted it to be a male. I tried to put that traditional, just to turn it on its head and put that traditional, like he's gonna acquiesce to the control. He's going to give the woman the control. and in hopes of her seeing herself in a way that she couldn't prior to it. And we have these expectations of what BDSM is, and people have this expectation from seeing 50 Shades of Grey. And the reality of it is, it's we don't know these subsets of subcultures of people. We have a certain window, which is a very tiny window into their world, and we come up with all these judgments and and I did all this research on it. And it's interesting. It's just so interesting because I'm a control freak. Being a director already, everybody should know that. But because I'm a control freak, the notion of control is important to me, and it's important to me in a way of that, even on set, it's not about controlling, it's about directing. You know what I mean by that? It's not about controlling everything. It's this collaboration, this beautiful collaboration that occurs with everyone on set, not just the director and actor, but the director and the cinematographer, and the gaffer, the grip, the production design. I don't care if it's crafty. You know what I mean? Like, we're all collaborating to make this stuff come through. And it's just not about control. If anything, what I had to do as a director is learn how to not control, which is the paradox. Yeah. Because you're expected, with expectations, you're expected that the director's just like, no, do this, do this, do this, do that. That's just not how I work. I'm just like, I treat everyone as if they are the artist that they are. And it's like, okay, how can we surpass my mind and let's put our heads together and surpass both our minds and make some craziness,
Yeah.
So, I love that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And it's interesting too, Lynn, that from the back end of putting a festival together, it's such an interesting parallel to what we experienced this year. This is the first year that we've diversified our programming from just me and one other woman who has years and years and years of experience, to welcoming in Film Fest Petaluma, a couple of other local programmers, and saying, show us your lens of what films are moving you right now. And it's an art form in of itself. But the point is, as soon as you let other people in and start artistically and start grooving off of their input and their contributions, that's where the real magic happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So, yeah, I just thought and I love that. I love too that was a deliberate choice, that the man was the one to give her that, well, maybe not give her that permission, but to teach her that. That I signed up for this. This is agency. This is what agency looks like.
Right.
So, okay. So, putting the film together, it was a class project. It ends up as part of this distributed work. And then in the meantime, I've seen a couple of other things. Are you allowed to talk about projects that have been accepted at other festivals?
I could talk about certain projects right now that have been accepted. I can't talk about everything
okay.
yet, because it's like,
that's fun.
It's on the hush. But so my thesis film is what I worked on once I finished classes at NYU's grad film, which is after your third year. You're now a thesis student. And we were given either 1 to 2 years to work on that and get that together. I shot Cracked, which is based on my childhood. It's based on my childhood. I shot it in September of 2019. And because of COVID happening, it just stopped everything. And it ended up being finished, completed with coloring and everything, at getting out of post in December of 2020. So it was difficult because I was editing at NYU, and during and I literally, that's when they were like, oh my God, we have to shut down buildings. And I'm like, it was like a movie. It was like, what? I was like, are you serious? Like, I didn't believe it. You know what I mean? So it was just interesting. how that worked out. But Cracked it's been doing great. It got into I became a finalist of NYU's First Run Film Festival, which is a major film festival at NYU. It's a traditional for them, and the King Wasserman Awards are very traditional for them. And I was able to win second prize, King Wasserman Award for it. It also got awards for acting and cinematography. That's a big shout out to Tatum, Marilyn Hall, and Malachi Hurd, who are starring in it. There are many stars of this film. Kismet Pringle, Dwayne Grant, Paris Creighton III, Zonia Edwards, Kamal Anibello. I mean, there's just so many. Zayden, Avandre, Michaela, Destiny Michaela, Henry, just amazing young actors, young talents, and also amazing adult actors that also contributed to this incredible team. Lorena Duran, whose cinematography is just amazing. I wanted to make sure this felt like the 80s in New York, and she made sure that it did. So, you know, creating this film was a huge labor of love. That started with me actually getting the Spike Lee Production Fund. That kind of put a little bit of a battery, not a little bit, it put a huge battery in my back, because I was able to kind of fund now in a way that I wasn't able to prior. Like this was always all my other films, whether it's Nowhere or The Dreamer. This is me making films of like making $1 out of 15 cents, you know? And for this, and this is also the first film. Well, I produce all my films, but I opened up a production company right after my third year at NYU grad, and it's called Illusionary Ends. And I, because I knew I wanted to produce, I wanted to have that vehicle to create and that creative control. So that stuff came out, and it's doing great. It just also got accepted. It's going to have its world premiere at Tribeca Film Festival in June, and it's honestly, I just feel like it hasn't all sunken in yet. It really hasn't all sunken in yet, to be honest with you. You know, I'm so goal oriented, and I really have to learn how to like really celebrate my triumphs and my wins. But I'm always trying to like just make sure that I stay grounded and make sure that that, you know, my path is to get this out to everyone. Like my films are about, I always want it's about human interaction and our humanness and how we it's about psychology too, and just how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves. And my hope is to connect with the viewers in a way that helps them connect with themselves at the end of the day. That is my hope, and why I'm a filmmaker.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. So I just want to ask you one more question, and I haven't even really considered how to frame this so much as I'm curious about, I knew about the Spike, it's called the Spike Lee Fellowship Fund?
The Spike Lee Production Fund.
Spike Lee Production Fund. So I'm curious about your thoughts on what I hope is a continuing trend of the diversification of filmmaking voices and representation. It was so exciting to see another NYU alum take top prize at the Oscars.
Right. Yes, definitely.
So amazing. Was Chloe in school the same time you were?
No. She graduated years before me, but she came to NYU to showcase The Writer. So we were able to kind of have our own little screening and then Q&A with her. Nice. So it was amazing to kind of see. I don't know if you are familiar with The Writer, but that is, I mean, what intrigues me so much about her is her confidence in quiet filmmaking. You know, some people, you know, it's all about conflict and drama, and you can have conflict and drama no matter what, but she has this her confidence in this quiet slow burn of humanity. Like it's just, and it's so human. You almost feel like you're sitting in somebody's living room and just watching them. You know, it has this kind of documentary vibe to it, although,
Yeah.
and it's still very cinematic, and it's just very interesting. So I do appreciate her in that way. Um, and as far as diversity, you know, it's amazing when I just think about the idea that everything that I've seen since I was a child, like 90, what? I'll be liberal. 95% of everything that I've seen since I was a child on television, in the movies, is through a white male's gaze.
Mm-hmm.
To fathom that,
Mm-hmm.
to fathom that, right? Because we're looking through that lens. So
Right.
it's portraying what they see, how they see it, and it very much influences culture. It very much influences pop culture, and
100%.
and has influenced me as a filmmaker. Has influenced me. You know, I love film. I love. It's not to say that, you know, that the percentage of what I've seen, it's, I still love film. A lot of films that I love are made by white filmmakers. You know, that it is just is what it is.
Yeah.
But to not realize that our gaze and the way we see things, whether it is me being a Black person, whether it is me being a woman, whether it is me being a gay woman, it's the way we see things has been kind of amputated from the mainstream. You know, the way we see life is kind of, there's a really good word for it. I'm just going to try to explain. Like, it's almost seen as foreign because what has been established has already been established.
Yeah, I get it 100%.
And what that does is it creates a barrier between understanding of women, between the understanding of Black people, between the understanding of brown people, people of color, gay people, transgender people. It creates such a divide, and then we wonder why we're so divided, why we don't understand each other. Like, come on, dude! Like, this is just straight up clear. It's straight up clear. And that's why, you know, I come from music. I come from the music industry. And that's what I love about music, is because when you hear the music, you're not thinking, oh, who is this? Is this a Black person? Is this a white person? What's going on? But you just hear the music, and it transcends that. It transcends religion. It transcends race. It transcends everything that is biased, age. It transcends everything. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things I love about film. And that's one of the reasons why music. And that's one of the reasons why I went from being in front of the camera to behind the camera. Because now you get to look at a film, and I'm hoping that you're not thinking, well, this is a woman that made this film. You know, you're just looking at the film and you're treating it for what it is. And hopefully you're so engaged, you're not thinking of those things. And this way it kind of levels the playing ground. One of the things that scares me is that, you know, this being like a trendy thing, like it's trendy, you know, it's trendy to support. We have to now support diversity. We have to support, and I'm hoping that it's not just a very advanced form of like, what do you call that thing? I just had it at the tip of my tongue. But where they like say, we have to hire 2 Black people.
Oh, like
affirmative action.
Yeah,
It's not like this really advanced form of, you know what I mean? Like, God, I hope, my whole thing is, you know, hey, change needs to happen no matter what, you know, but I'm hoping at some point, if in fact that is what it is, right? It's just this kind of like affirmative action for people with cameras, you know. If that is what it is, I hope that this transforms into an understanding of the importance of this diversity, of the importance of inclusion, of the importance of, because we all need each other. You know what I mean? Like, I need men in my life. I'm gay. Like people think, oh, well, she's a lesbian. Like that. If you're a lesbian, you don't like men. If you're pro-Black, that means you're anti-white. If you're this, it's like this binary way of thinking, which has gotten us into trouble since the beginning of life itself. I'm hoping that if that is yet the case, that this transfers into seeing the merit in films. Not the dollar bills in films, but seeing the merit in films. Yeah, they'll make money, no question, but seeing the merit in films because of the different lens. I mean, that's my hope. That's my hope.
Amen. Amen, 100%. And I really, I would add to that I think that when we have more and more films that center people from different walks of life and experiences and abilities and colors and races, more and more people will see themselves represented on screen and participate
right
in the art, whether it's viewing it or making it. And so it's so important. Yes, Lynn, it's so good to catch up with you. It is.
Same here.
It's just amazing to hear the tiniest bit about your process. I was going to ask you about music, and you kind of covered that too. Too short of a conversation, but maybe just the right amount for the conversation I want to share with the rest of the world. And then I'll take my private thoughts to you off camera. But thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
My pleasure. You're my homie, so I'm here. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, and I really hope that someday we're able to host you out here and showcase another film.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah. So thanks for watching, and I'll go ahead. I'm going to stop record, but then you and I can say goodbye. And for everybody else, don't miss our Right to Gaze. If you have a pass, it's playing right now and playing through Sunday, May 2nd. You're also welcome to get a ticket to it through the website, avfilmsociety.org, and you have 72 hours to watch it once you press play. And there are a ton of other fun things coming up in the festival, lots more conversations to be had. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the movies.
Let me say one thing.
Oh, yes.
One thing. Support film festivals and filmmakers, film festivals from Cannes, Venice, Sundance, to all kinds of film festivals. It's important because it is a lifeline for us as filmmakers. It's a lifeline for the communities that they showcase these films for. It's a very special role that you have, Catherine. I just want to thank you very much for this role that you're doing, because you're bringing what we love to do to the masses, and that is all we ask for. So thank you so much, and shout out to the Alexander Valley Film Festival.
Thank you so much. Yay. Bye-bye, everyone.